All right, let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new document. Our new document will have a width of 1,000 points, a height of 1,000 points, a single artboard, and the RGB color mode. Let's go ahead and create. All right, the first thing I want to do is I want to mention that we're using the Essentials Classic layout. To select the Essentials Classic layout, all you need to do is go to the top right-hand corner of your page, click on Switch Workspace, and select Essentials Classic. Let's deselect. Next thing I want to mention is we are using Smart Guides. To ensure that you are using Smart Guides, go to View, Smart Guides, or select Control U. One more thing worth mentioning is that we will be using the bottom center of the page to show tips and tricks, key command, and hotkey recommendations. Now that we've done that, let's get started. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to create our background. We're going to do that by creating a square or rectangle, if it's the case, the same size as our artboard. We're going to do this by clicking on our rectangle tool, then clicking anywhere on the page. We're going to create a rectangle that's 1,000 points wide by 1,000 points tall, and we'll click OK. Once we've created our rectangle, that our stroke is transparent and our fill is black. You can see we're close right here. I want to make sure my fill is black, however, by double clicking on my fill and dragging all the way to black, just like that. Let's click OK. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to align our shape center on the page. We do that by going to our align and aligning it horizontally and vertically, just like that. Now, if you don't see your align tools at the top of your page, you can always go to Window, Align, or press Shift F7. Once our background has been aligned, let's go ahead and lock it into place. We're going to do this by selecting our layers panel. We're going to click on our layers panel, or of course, you can go to Window, Layers, or press F7. Once we've got that, let's go ahead and rename our layer, Layer 1, to Background. Click again anywhere on our Layers panel, and then let's lock it by pressing the lock icon next to our eyeball under Layers. Perfect. Let's go ahead and make our text now. We'll do that by creating a new layer, and let's rename Layer 2 Text. Double click on it and write text. Click again anywhere on our Layers panel, and we are all set. Next thing we're going to do is let's grab our type tool and let's write the word that we are going to be using. Let's grab it and we'll click anywhere on screen and write the word sauce. Once we've written it, all we need to do is select all of our type. You can hit Control A to do that. That selects all of your type. Let's change the color to white. We'll double click on our black fill, and again we'll drag all the way up to white. That way we can see it nice and clearly. And then what we're going to do is we're going to change our type to a big, thick script. In this case, I've selected milkshake. So I'll double click on my character and write milkshake. Once milkshake becomes available, all I need to do is double click on it or hit return. Next thing I'll do is I'm going to size up my text to 250 points so we can see it nice and clear. There you go. And let's grab our selection tool just like that. Once again, what we're going to do with our type is we are going to align it center horizontally, and then we're going to align it center vertically. Once we've done that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move sauce up just a little bit because we want to incorporate the drips. Hold our shift key. We're going to arrow up about 3 or 4 times. Looks good right there. Now that we've done that, let's go to our true color. What we'll do here is we'll double click on our white fill once again, and let's go ahead and find a good medium red. I think something like that looks pretty good. What I'm trying to do is represent something like ketchup or barbecue. So we'll click OK there. I think that looks good. And notice our fill has changed. Now that we've got our main type, what I want to do is I want to get it set for those big drips that I'm going to have. And when I think about something dripping, I think about gravity kind of pulling something down. And so the next thing we're going to do with our type is we're going to go to Effect, Warp, Arc. And when we've done that, you'll notice that our default bend is 50. That is a little bit too much, as you can see, because our type starts to become heavily distorted. If we take it down to 20%, we'll tab off it. We'll make sure our preview is selected. I think that looks pretty good. We'll click OK. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate my type slightly. The reason I do that is because, again, I'm thinking about gravity. The S in the word sauce is so much larger than all of the other types that I think it would stand to reason that that's the heavier piece. So I'm going to have gravity affect it just a little bit more. So I'll grab my rotate tool, and then I'm going to click on my type, and I'm going to drag it up just a little bit. I think that works pretty well. It was about 3 to 4% is what my rotation was, and you could see that as I was dragging up. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm not going to use this as a type element anymore. I want to make this a shape, and the way I do that is I'm going to go up to Object, and I'll select Expand Appearance, and watch what happens to our type when I do that. Note that it changes from a type element all the way to uneditable shapes. We're going to do one more. We're going to unify this entire shape. Notice that the S, A, U, C, and E are all unique shapes. Let's make it one. Here's how we do that. Let's go to Window. We'll select Pathfinder. We can also select Shift Control F9. And then we're going to select under Shape Modes, Unite. Note once I click on that our shapes become a single shape. Let's close out our Pathfinder. We don't need that anymore. And we're all set with our type. So let's go ahead and lock our type layer. Let's create a new layer. This time around, we're going to call our new layer Drips. Let's click OK. And let me stop here. Note the reason that I lock my layers is so that they can't be edited or affected by any of the actions I do on the rest of the page. Note that if I grab my selection tool, I can't click on sauce or the background. That's going to be to our benefit because we're going to start getting into some more complex bits as we go forward. Let's get started with our drips. The first thing we want to do is we want to set our guidelines for our drips. Here's how we do that. We're going to go up to View, and we'll select Rulers, and we'll click Show Rulers. You can also press Ctrl R to do the same thing. Next, let's put our lines to view. The way we do that is we're going to click and drag on our leftmost ruler, and we're going to drag out rulers. We're going to put ruler lines at the lowest point of some of our letters. For example, on the S, we'll put a ruler line right there. Let's do two more with the A. We'll do one at the first part of the A, and then we'll grab another ruler mark at the lowest part between the A and the U. I think that looks good right there. Let's do two more ruler lines. We're going to do one at the lowest point of our C. Looks good. And let's do one more at the lowest point of our E. There we go. I think that looks good right there. The next thing we need to do is let's go ahead and make our drips. This time around, we're going to grab our pen tool and let's zoom into our S. And the way I do that is I'm going to press Ctrl+. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to press my space bar, and notice what happens when I press my space bar. My pen tool or any other tool that I select is going to turn into a hand, and I can click and drag my artboard over to fit what I need to do. Now that I've done that, let's go to any point on our S. I think that's good right there. I'm going to click, and then I'm going to go over close to my guideline. Go about right there, and I'm going to click and start dragging down. I'm going to hold my Shift key to make sure I'm dragging perfectly vertically, and I'll go down to about like that. Next, I'll go to my guideline, click and drag horizontally to the point that I like. I'll hold my Shift key again to ensure that I'm perfectly horizontal, and that looks good there. My next click is going to be across the guideline from my second click. Note where I'm doing right there. I'll click and I'll drag vertically, and I'll make my vertical drag the same size as my downward drag on the other side. That looks pretty good right there. Next, I'll go to any point on our S. That looks good right there. I'll click on that, and let me go ahead and close my shape out just like that. Let's deselect our shape. Again, we can press our Control key, and click anywhere on our artboard. Let's do the same thing with our A. Go over here, I'll click, I'll start my drag, and then I'll hold my shift key down to make sure that I'm perfectly vertical. Looks good right there. I'll go to my guideline again, I'll click, I'll hold my shift key to be sure that I'm perfectly horizontal, and then I'll do the same thing on the way up. I'll go exactly the opposite of my initial guideline. I'll click and I'll drag vertically, holding my shift key so that my upward drag is the same size as my downward drag. And I'll release. Now this time around, I want to do something different. Instead of clicking on my A right here, I want to make it look like that I've got this drip that's coming off of the entire letter. I'm going to go here and I'm going to click and then drag horizontally, holding my shift key. That looks pretty good, just like that. And then I'll go down and I'll go right here and I'll click and drag vertically, holding my shift key. This will be a bit of a smaller drip. That looks good right there. And then again, I'll click, drag horizontally, holding my shift key, just like that. Once I'm done, I'll go up to my second to last anchor point. I'll click and drag vertically, again, making sure that my upward bars are the same length as my downward bars, just like that. Next, I'll go to the area on my A where I'm running off. I'll click anywhere. I can even drag if I really want to make it look like it's going right into the A shape. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to close out my shape just by following the A letter, just like I'm doing there. We'll click off of it. Let's deselect. And let's go ahead and check how our progress is doing. Let's zoom out by hitting Control minus. And then let's hide our ruler guides. The way we do that is we press Control semicolon. And that's how our drips look so far. It looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and finish out with the C and the E. Let's show our guides once again. We're going to hit Control semicolon, and then let's zoom into the C and the E. Again, we'll zoom in by hitting Control plus, and then we're going to drag over by pressing our space bar, clicking and dragging. I think that looks good right there. Let's go ahead and get started with the C. Remember the steps I took on the S and A. See how you do. Once we've completed the E, let's zoom out. Let's bring the entire page into view by pressing Control 0. Let's hide our guides by pressing Control semicolon. And check it out. That is the look that we were going for right there. Now that we're happy with our drips, let's go ahead and lock them up as well. And now while we've created some pretty cool shapes, our shape doesn't have any depth. And so let's go ahead and take those steps to add some depth. And this is a pretty cool step. And we're going to be using our pen tool and our art brushes by doing it. Check it out. Let's go. What we're going to do now is we're going to create a new layer. Again, add a new layer by clicking the plus sign on our layers. And let's change our layer name to highlights. Let's click anywhere on our layer panel. Let's select our highlights layer just like that. And let's go. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to grab our pen tool and we're just going to draw highlight lines. Once we're done, we're going to create an art brush and apply those brushes. Check out how we go. Let's zoom into Sauce just a little bit. That looks good right there. And then I'm going to make sure that my pen tool is still selected. If it isn't, just make sure to click over here. Next thing I want to do is I want a transparent fill and a white stroke. So I'll add that right now. Make my fill transparent, make sure that my stroke is white. It doesn't matter the thickness of my stroke. I just want to start drawing lines along the edge. Check out how I draw my lines right now. Note that I'm just going to click and drag out these little curves just like that. Once I'm done dragging out my curve, I'm going to press my Control key, deselect, and then drag out another curve just like that. I'm going to make these curves again. I'll press my Control key to deselect. Then I'm going to keep clicking and dragging out my curves, just like that. Control key to deselect. Let's do just a little bit more. Click, drag out a curve. Let's make that a little bit longer, just like that. Let's press our control key to deselect. One more. Press our control key and we'll deselect. Let's do this for the entire rest of our shape. Let's go. All right, now that we're done with that, let's bring our entire page into view. Note that all we've done is draw lines around our shape. Now what we want to do again is create an art brush so that we can make those lines round. Let's look at how we're going to do that. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our selection tool and I'm going to select all of those lines that I've created. All I need to do is click and drag across my shape because all my other layers have been locked. Check it out. Click and drag. I've selected all of those lines and now I'm going to group them together. I can do that two ways. The first way is select Object, Group, or I can press Control G. Done. Now let's go ahead and create our art brush. Here's how I do it. I'm going to grab my rectangle tool and I'm going to hold it and I'll select my ellipse tool. Next, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click and drag a small ellipse out. I think that looks good right there. Let's zoom in on that. And let's make sure that our ellipse fill is white and our stroke is transparent. Once we've done that, let's go ahead and click on our color swatches. We can do it on our right side menu right there. Or of course, you can go to Window, Swatches right here. Once I've done that, let's click on Brushes, and then let's grab our selection tool, and then let's click and drag our oval right into our brushes just like that. Notice that the window lights up. Once we've released that, notice that we've got a new brush window up. First thing we want to do is we want to select Art Brush. That's the type of brush we're creating. We'll click OK, and then our Art Brush options come up. We'll rename this Highlights. And then we're going to make sure our width is fixed. And then under brush scale options, let's select stretch to fit stroke length. Otherwise, we're going to leave everything alone. Let's click OK. And now that we've done that, let's go ahead and delete the oval that we've created. We don't need that anymore. Next, let's zoom out to show the entire page by clicking Control 0. Let's go ahead and select those stroke lines that we've created. We can click on one because they're grouped together, they'll all select. And then let's click on our new art brush. Let's go ahead and deselect our shape and take a look at what it looks like. We've got depth to our piece. However, as you can see, the white is just simply too white. So let's select any of those lines again. We'll click on that just like that. And then let's go to our transparency window. You can click on it on your side window right here. Or of course, you can go to Window and select Transparency or Shift Control F10. Once we're here, let's change our opacity from 100% to 40%. Let's click OK. Let's click off of our element. Looks good. All we need to do is save our piece, close our window, or share our piece, of course, and we are done.